smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see what?
And welcome to another edition of Graham's Gallery. I am your host, Dave Dynasty of the Dave Dynasty Show, and I am joined, as always, by Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. Jerry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Dave. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. We're going to talk today about the early days of your career, and primarily in Detroit working for the Sheik. We've got a lot of listener questions sent in. Lots of interest in this topic when we put it out there. So let's start from the beginning. You were trained by Martino Angelo, as we talked about in an earlier episode, correct?
That is correct. He trained me in a wrestling room at the local YMCA. There was no ring there. It was more geared for amateur wrestling. So we just got all my early training on a mat. I never was in a ring early on.
Right. And that was there in Toledo, right?
Yes, at Toledo YMCA. It's not even there anymore, but at the time, back in the early 70s, it was there.
Yeah. Well, so before we dive into Detroit, tell us about Martino. That's kind of a name a lot of people maybe don't know or haven't heard. What can you tell us about Martino Angelo?
Well, he came down from Hamilton, Ontario to Toledo, Ohio to try pro wrestling, and he was an amateur champion in Canada in the 30s. And he got down here, and he was a big hit, and he had a temper, though, and he was rough. In those days, these pro wrestlers were all really, really, really tough guys. They were more into the Luther style of wrestling and less showbiz, less flash and more substance. Right. And he did a good job out in the Oregon area, and then he was down in Los Angeles with Danny McShane and Wildhead Barry, all those guys, and he used to wrestle barefoot, and a ringside fan burned his foot with a cigar. Oh, man. So that's pretty painful. So he punched the guy, and they had a big court case, had to pay the guy off, but he had to leave California, which he said that was the biggest mistake he made because he was really, you know, with Red Barry and Danny McShane in the 30s and 40s, that was his good come. He also later managed a wrestler called The Beast, and that was at Madison Square Garden where he wrestled as a Beast tag team partner, and he was a very, very, very solid, proficient wrestler. But he became a promoter in Toledo, first working for a guy named Cliff Maupin. And then when Cliff Maupin either retired or died, he affiliated himself with the Sheik. In other words, the Sheik was providing him with wrestlers. And but for a long time, Cliff Maupin, he would get wrestlers out of Chicago from Jim Barnett and whoever his partner was. I can't think of the other guy's name. They'd get in Hans Schmidt, Yukon Eric. The best. This is the 60s. The best names of the 50s and 60s. So we had a lot of contacts all over the world. And when I gave his regards to Jim Barnett told me what a great promoter Angelo was. Praise from Caesar, as you might say. So he knew what he was doing, and he trained a lot of guys. One you might know was George Scott. Oh yeah. Who I used to. He was from Hamilton as well. And there was other wrestlers up there he had trained, but he found his niche here in Toledo as a promoter, and he did very well, and he trained me, and he didn't charge me a penny. We were good friends. I looked up to him like an older brother, an uncle, whatever you want to say, an older figure, and he really took care of me, and I owe everything in my career to Martino Angelo.
Yeah. Now that would be the George Scott, primarily a booking fame, correct? He was.
Yeah. I worked for George Scott when I wrestled for Georgia Championship Wrestling, and right. It didn't seem to give me much pull. I told Angelo to go alone, and then Scott was still. It didn't get me any closer to the book. It didn't get me farther away either. But anyway, it's just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, what time period are we talking where you trained with Angelo?
Early 70s. I can't put my exact figure on. Maybe 71, 70.
Okay.
But it was a long haul from there. But yes, that was a training part. Then getting into the business was another phase.
Right. Yeah. So now, okay. So let's shift over. So how did you end up working in Detroit for the Sheik?
Well, I started in Toledo. First of all, they started me, believe this or not, as the timekeeper, then as a referee, then as the ring announcer. Then I was always trying to get my first match, and in those days, there was a lot of guys wanting to get into wrestling. It was very difficult. Right. So I would pack my bags and ride with some of the wrestlers just in case somebody didn't show up. And finally, my first match came to be in Ypsilanti, Michigan, against Lanny Poffo. Okay. My first time in the ring, and Lanny pretty much cleaned my clock, but it was okay. He gave me a few things to do. It wasn't the greatest match of all, but most people's first match is not. Yeah. But that got me started, and then the Sheik started using me as a wrestler, the lowest of the low, doing getting beat, or as they say, doing jobs and opening matches. But that's how you learn your trade. I'm not complaining. Yep. I'm just explaining.
Right. That's right. And so, was this you just working under your given name, your birth name at that time, or
Jerry Jaffe? Yep. Yeah, Jerry Jaffe, and I had the opportunity. And this was what helped me in later years, as I was working in the TV studio and stuff with some of the biggest names in the country at that time. Just to give you an example, some of the guys I was working with was Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes, of course, Bobo Brazil, Moose Sholak, Bulldog Don Kent, and Al Costello, one of the Fabulous Kangaroos. I just can't think of all the Don Fargo. It's been Bobo Brazil. I was working with the best talent in the country, and after you learn your basic stuff in the gym, the only way to find out if you're really good or not is you got to start working with top talent.
That's right.
And for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. It's not just 30, 40 matches. I see a lot of these kids today, they can throw a drop kick and they think they're the greatest wrestler in the world. It's there's a lot more to it than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you were kind of working the underneath stuff, kind of enhancement type, work for the Sheik. Did he ever give you a break? Did he ever give you a little any kind of push when you worked over?
No, I'll tell you something. When I first started with the Sheik, I was so grateful that he gave me an opportunity, and he was nice to me.
Right.
He had me come up to the house, bring my kids up to get an indoor swimming pool, and he had a ring in his backyard, and we worked out there and stuff, and never gave me a break. And then the strangest thing, I was talking to his son, Eddie, maybe a year ago, I lose track of time, and Eddie asked me, whatever happened? Why did you stop coming around? And I said, you mean you really don't know? And what had happened is Les Ruffin from Cincinnati had gotten me in with Dick the Bruiser's promotion in Indianapolis, and I was doing the same thing there, just doing jobs. I got paid better there, but it was the same thing. Once again, I got to work with Paul Christie, Spike Huber, all the best names. It was just really good talent. And one day, Jerry Graham, I said to Dick the Bruiser, I says, could you use Jerry Graham? He'll do anything you want. He's in Toledo. The Sheik won't use him, and he just broke. So he says, bring him along. So they started using Jerry just underneath, just like me, because Jerry was happy to get to work. Right. So what happened was, Jerry and I were not partners yet. I got to make this very clear. I was just Jerry Jaffe. He was Jerry Graham. The only thing we had in common is we lived in Toledo, and because I'd asked Dick if I guess somebody shared the ride and transportation expenses with and used, so we were not affiliated. So while we were in the dressing room once in Indianapolis, the Sheik and Jerry Graham got a terrible argument about something that happened in Toronto. They were screaming at each other, and it had nothing to do with me, right? Okay? The Sheik fired both of us. He just fired me because I was riding with Jerry. I was shocked. So when my first break came, I called the Sheik several times asking what had happened. I was just devastated. I mean, I was out of the business all of a sudden, and without even any good reason. Yeah. And Flying Fred Curry started his own promotion, and he hired me and Jerry Graham, and we were working on top. And that's where I got my first experience of main event wrestling with Jerry Graham, and I used to wrestle Wild Bull and Flying Fred Curry all over Southern Ohio, big houses. And we had Toledo for a while, but the Sheik was able to get it back from Fred. But I would say that then Dick the Bruiser brought me back as Jerry Graham on top. But that's what gave me my first break out of the bottom, and was Fred Curry. Yeah, I never forget him for it either.
Yeah,
and we became great friends. We're friends to this day.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about now let's talk. You mentioned Fred's father, Wild Bull. Let's talk about him because he is. To me, Wild Bull Curry is so underappreciated for what he has done, and I don't.
Well, what's happening now is they're just forgetting. At the time, he was as big as they get.
That's right.
Wild Bull Curry was the absolute father of hardcore wrestling.
That's right.
He was the first guy who started doing all the crazy stuff, and it got over. You had to believe the guy. I had to believe once he punched me in the eye and swelled shut. So I had to believe. I'll tell you what Wild Bull Curry told me once, because after I started promoting, and he liked me, and he says, Jerry, if you're out of town, you want me in, as long as I don't lose money. These days, guys today, they want $750, $1,500, $2,500 because they've been on TV. Bull told me, as long as he got his trans and enough money to eat on and everything, and then we'll look at the house. Yeah. And he'd tell me what to pay him. But he was willing to work with me, and the fact that a legend in the business, right. He was as big as they get. I always underappreciate.
I always feel like he was a victim of his time because there's not a lot of video of him in his prime. So
people
now don't see what he was.
Well, he could get a crowd going like nobody else could get a crowd going, and he did very well in Texas. He did a huge amount of money in Texas. He also worked at Madison Square Garden. He worked with Rocca, and he worked with all his top guys there. And he worked with the Sheik at Detroit, Tony's up in Toronto, and he was all over the world. I mean, Bull Curry was as big a name as they get. Like I said, because of the lack of videotape and such things as that, there's not much on him. But I just can't speak highly enough of Wild Bull Curry and Flying Fred as far as that goes. The Currys were really a force in the wrestling business. But, time marches on. A lot of the fans don't even know who they are.
That's
or
right.
me either, for that matter. Okay. Except I'm still kind of active, so they still,
right.
as a manager.
Yeah. So you mentioned going to the Sheik's house. So tell us about what'd you think of Sheik's family, his wife Joyce, and then Eddie and Tom?
Joyce was always nice to me. The Sheik was always nice to me. Eddie was always nice to me, and the Tommy, he was kind of young then, but I mean, they were always very gracious. I rode somewhere with the Sheik, I'd up in Michigan, and I'd drop him off at his house. I'd have to go back farther south of Toledo, and always asked me if I want to stop in and have a drink or a sandwich or something. I was absolutely shocked when he fired me. I was absolutely shocked because he was so good to me up until that time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I tell him, like not using me right. Okay, one time they used me right because they had to. Tom Monesto, I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not, was booking for the Sheik. And we had a guy named Billy Joe Good who had come up from Georgia, and they gave him a push, but it just didn't work. Okay, he wasn't drawing; they weren't buying him, so he was going to go back to Georgia. Now he had his. This is one of my favorite stories about Cobo because I've been there for years, never won a match, got beat. So they seen me coming, they felt sorry for me. So anyway, they says, "Well, I'll just let Billy Joe catch you with an elbow; he'll pin you." And I took Ernesto aside. And I says, I realize I'm not too important to the card, but he's leaving. He's got his bags packed and his trunk and everything. As soon as he wrestles and gets paid, he's going back to Georgia. Why on earth would you not give me a win, if nothing else but to make me a good win for somebody else?
Right.
I beat this guy, and he's, well, that's what I wanted. So I went to the Sheik, and I said, obviously there's no future for me in this business. I gave it a try. I'm going to go out and do what you want because you want to. I told Sheik what had happened, and he didn't say anything. But a few weeks later, Tom Monesto came up to me and says, Jerry, I changed my mind, which I think the Sheik told him to change his mind. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the match, I just hit him with a drop kick and pinned him. And the place in Cobo went silent. Everybody, because this guy had been working like main events.
Yeah.
He'd been winning, and all of a sudden, the biggest job guy in the territory pins him in the middle of the ring. And then they started screaming. And I'm not kidding you. They carried me back to the dressing room on their shoulders. The fans just stormed the ring because they all liked me. Yeah. It just felt so bad that every time I wrestled, when I finally, it was my first match I won at Cobo, and the place went crazy. And that's when I realized sometimes you've got to do stuff like that just to keep the fans on their toes.
That's right.
When they can start calling the shots, that's what Angelo taught me. When they can start predicting what's going to happen, you're going to start losing fans. You got to keep them guessing.
Yeah. So they never capitalized off that then. With that reaction you got, never used that as anything?
No. No. And the funny part was, at the end of the Sheik's reign, a lot of guys weren't showing up, the top guys. Mm-hmm. I was wrestling main events all over the territory because I didn't care about money. I cared, but I wanted the experience.
Right.
There's a Sheik, why don't you give me a few wins on television? If I'm going to be wrestling main events, why don't you give me a push? And he said, you want some wins on TV? I said, how about if I send you to Japan, St. Louis? I said, okay. I thought he was serious. He was making fun of me.
Oh, man.
Then I started realizing that this guy wasn't as big a friend as I thought he was. But, I mean, every one of his little shows, somebody wasn't there, and I was in a tag match in the main event or something. So he just couldn't get used to the idea of me not being on the bottom. And when I worked for Bruiser, he asked me if I wanted to come back. And I said, yeah, if I get used right. And we met at a restaurant in Toledo after a Toledo show, and he made me all these promises. And when I showed up to the sports arena the next week, he acted like he didn't even know me. Huh. So there's something going on there. My suggestion was I wrestled the Sheik. I mean, everybody knew I was with the Bruiser. I was running my own shows in Toledo. They were doing so-so. But if we had worked an angle where I would wrestle the Sheik, I think it would have drawn huge money. The Sheik just always thought of me as a job guy.
Yeah.
And when I came back to Toledo, I said I did set an attendance record here, money-wise, not head count. I set an attendance money record here that broke every record because prices have gone up. Like Buddy Rogers used to get 5,000 or 6,000 people to sports arena, but it used to be $1 a head, you know.
Yeah, right.
So I wrestled of all people, Chris Carter. We set the thing up. We did $15,000.
Wow.
And I was bragging but then about 3 months later, Hulk Hogan came down and did $90,000. So much for my record.
Yeah.
But I had it for a while. But yeah, that was pretty much it with the Sheik. He was sending me started sending me to all the towns. I always showed up. I always got low pays, but I figured this was my learning process, and I never complained about the pay. I never. I would wrestle 2 TV shows. What they do is, at one point, they were putting a TV show out live from Channel 62, and after that was over, they'd tape the next week's show.
Right.
And then they'd go back to being live. So I would go to Detroit and wrestle 2 times in the studio, and once at Cobo and get $45. But it started at 75. I worked my way down. But they were having financial troubles. Once again, I'm just saying that I'm not saying this to make a negative comment about the Sheik. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying how bad I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That's what the pay was. I was wrestling top talent in the TV studios, and a lot of guys would come back and they'd say they want to work with me on the TV because they always knew I was right there for them. Good match. And like Don Kent said, I had a reputation of not being dangerous. A lot of these job guys were new, and they'd potato you, catch you with elbows, drop you on your head when they slammed you. So they liked me because I wasn't dangerous. I knew how to work, and because I had good teachers. Because after Angelo came Randy Savage, and Angelo Papa was dad, and Lanny Papa, and the Samoans, Don Kent. A lot of guys helped train me in the Sheik's territory, and I cut my tooth. And I owe the Sheik that. Yeah. Even though we kind of finished on hard terms, which has always bothered me.
How did you actually wrestle the Sheik up there in Detroit while you were working?
I wrestled the Sheik on television in Detroit.
Yeah.
Several times. Abdullah the Butcher too.
Yeah. So, what was it like in the ring with the Sheik?
The Sheik was he liked to take everything. He wouldn't give you anything, but he wasn't dangerous or anything. I mean, he's a good, solid worker. He was a little what they call snug, but he never hurt me. He never. He wasn't like somebody like that. Butcher was dangerous. Right. Yeah. I had to be careful. We had to be careful with him. But the Sheik was a good worker. I enjoyed it. He was also a hardcore type wrestler, but he came after Bull Curry. Right. There's a lot of arguments about who was the first hardcore wrestler. Well, the Sheik came after. The Sheik was Bull Curry was around in the 30s. Yeah. The Sheik didn't come until the late 40s. Right. So the Sheik was one of the hardcore wrestlers, but Bull Curry was the first. That was it. Yeah. And, just doing the math, looking at the calendar. Right. Yeah. That was. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you brought up Bobo Brazil earlier, and he was obviously a big part of Detroit wrestling and working for the Sheik. Did he have any input behind the scenes up there in Detroit? Did he ever have with the Sheik? Yeah, with the Sheik.
Excuse me. Well, I never saw any evidence of that. He just was working for the Sheik. He's a top man. Yeah. But I like the first time I saw Bobo Brazil, he beat me in 10 seconds with a cocoa butt on a TV they did in Toledo. Yeah. And a few years later, I'm wrestling him on the main event, and it was sold out. I mean, sold out with a fire marshal. Sold out is the most overused term in wrestling. Whenever they have a big crowd, there might be something to say was sold out. But this was Springfield, Illinois, and Bobo Brazil and I were the main event. Victor Bruiser wasn't on the card, and he was in St. Louis that night, and the place was shut off by the fire marshal. And then we wrestled to a draw. And I'm thinking just a few years ago, he beat me in 10 seconds. Now I'm wrestling the main event in Springfield, Illinois, and wrestling him to a draw. Then I wrestled Bobo a lot, and I always liked him. He helped me a lot with, in my career with his suggestions, advice, and whenever we wrestled. And I really liked Bobo Brazil. Yeah.
Now you've worked for the Sheik. You obviously worked with and for Bruiser. Did you ever hear a lot of talk about the war in Detroit when Bruiser invaded Detroit? Did they ever talk about that?
I was working for the Sheik when that happened. Okay. And Bruiser was wrestling on Channel 9 Windsor and wrestling at the Olympia. And he'd run the same night as the Sheik. And the Sheik could do $40,000 or $50,000, and Bruiser would do $10,000 or $15,000. And so they finally came to some kind of terms. As I understood it, Bruiser wasn't dues-paying member of the NWA. He was a totally independent promotion.
Right.
So he could go where he wanted to. But apparently, as I understand it, if this is wrong, you know, you've heard my book, Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I divide stories into things that I've seen with myself,
That's
things
right.
that I believe, and things that are urban legends. Well, I'll put this into the things I believe, but I didn't see it firsthand.
Right. Okay.
I heard that Jim Barnett came up from Atlanta and had a meeting with the Sheik and Bruiser. They made a deal for Bruiser to leave the area because they wanted to keep the Sheik protected. But I'll tell you, the NWA used to be, when Bruiser ran one of his first shows, the night at Cobo Arena, I want you to listen to this. I'm going to play the matches that I can remember.
Okay.
They had a standard match like the Sheik versus Bobo Brazil, but they had Terry Funk defending the belt against like Harley Race. They had Gorilla Monsoon come in and wrestle Luke Graham from Detroit. They had Fred Blassie come in and wrestle Mil Mascaras, which is a big match in California in those days. They had Eddie Graham come up and wrestle somebody. They had the biggest names from all over the country. They had the Kangaroos wrestle Dusty Rhodes and Dick Burdock. They had the Currys. They wrestled. And the card was the most loaded card I've ever seen in my life. But the NWA was, you know, circling the wagons to help the Sheik because he was an NWA member.
Yeah, they were notorious for that, weren't they? Like when someone would run opposite an NWA member, all the other members would rally to help load up. And
yeah. Well, you know, I've tried to organize I don't have delusions of grandeur, but I've gotten in contact with a few local promoters in the Northwest Ohio, Southeastern Detroit area, and saying we should get together. And I got TV that goes all over the place, and you guys could run with our TV backing up. I mean, our TV here in Toledo goes wall to wall into Adrian and Monroe, it goes into Findlay, it goes into Sandusky, it goes into Defiance. There's guys promoting all those towns I've offered to come in with us. That's how I made all my money in wrestling. Vic the Bruiser gave me a tape with a 50-50 split to run Toledo, and I jumped at that. Right. All these guys, they don't care about money. They want to be champions. And I mean, I think about it and laugh. I look at all these guys that I could have helped make a lot of money because when they're watching a TV show, instead these guys, they come and they alpha guys that I've got on my TV show to work for them. You know, as our talent that we're paying to put on TV, and they take advantage of them. And it's I don't appreciate it, but I can't tell guys not to work, you know, because we only run once a month. So, but these guys could do better. Yeah. Would you rather have all of $100 or half of $1,000? I mean,
that's pretty clear.
That's what I'm saying. You could go into like Adrian, Michigan, or Defiance, or Findlay, and I'd go 50-50 with you, and we'd push it on our TV show. And when I had Bruiser Bedlam back in the 80s, I did the same thing. Not one promoter wanted to do business with me, but these NWA guys were smart. It wasn't quite what I'm describing, but they all stuck together, kept their territories together, and we're in fact, that's you heard about guys getting blackballed.
Right, yeah.
That's another thing. When I went to work for Fred Curry, I was also working for Bruiser on top, and the Sheik and Bruiser already made up, and they were going to work with each other. Bruiser was going to work some of the Detroit shows, and the Sheik was going to work some of the Indianapolis shows, but the Sheik told Bruiser that he had to get rid of me or the deal was off. Huh. So the Bruiser took me aside. He was very nice. So I got laid off, so I was officially blackballed. He said as soon as he was done with the Sheik, he was going to bring me back, and he did. He kept his word. But that's the real thing that put the icing on the cake with me and the Sheik was he had me blackballed from Bruiser, but it wasn't permanent. You know, he just a gesture of meanness. I wouldn't have affected. I would have rather come back and work for the Sheik on his shows and helped him, and I think I could have helped him.
Yeah, right.
But they always say the guy starts who never thinks. Much of you. I never thought of that. I started Scott Steiner, and I always respected him. Right. You know, he could come wrestle on my show anytime.
That's right. Yeah, sure. So
I think I'd have been a good manager for the Sheik too. If he hadn't been wrestling, I think I'd have been a good manager for him. Yeah. But he had some good managers as well. I'm not going to say anything about. He had Dave Drace in the Supermouth, who was great. Eddie Creechman, and of course the original Duva Farouk. But and there's a time where I could have been a man. I could have done a lot to help them. Want my help, I guess. Yeah. So.
Now, I heard when you were in Detroit, is it true that you wrestled a bear?
Twice. Once in Toledo and once in Detroit. Toledo was Thursday, Saturday. They couldn't find anybody else to wrestle a bear. This is how bad I wanted in. And the bear had a muzzle on, but he didn't have any claw protectors. Between those two matches, I was scratched from head to toe. I remember Al Costello wiping my whole body down with alcohol after the match in Detroit.
Yeah. No, was it?
I mean, it was just.
Was it Terrible Ted?
Mm-hmm. Whoever the bear man, Dave.
Dave Kigney or
Dave
something.
Dupree called himself.
Yeah.
His real name was McKidney. Yeah, that was the bear.
Yeah. Okay.
And he eventually ended up killing Dave's girlfriend. So I say I wrestled a bear that killed somebody. And not that I take any pride in it, pleasure in that, but that's the kind of danger I put myself in. Is the point I was making to be a wrestler. That's what I wanted more than anything. The time I was a little kid. That's why I never suffered from male menopause. A lot of guys, they want to be jet pilots. They grow up. They want to be policemen, firemen, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they end up working in a factory or something. I wanted to be a wrestler. I got to be a wrestler. So I got to live the dream. And I could have gone farther, but we had some problems with some of the WWE. No, it was the WWF then. Some of their captains were a little strange. I'll put it like that.
Now, did you have many encounters there with Dave the Bear Man while you were wrestling? I mean, did you?
Well, I wrestled him quite a bit. Just as I wrestled the Bear Man twice. He would never use me on any of the shows. But whenever I wrestled him for the Sheik, he came in for the Sheik, I wrestled him quite a bit, and we always had good matches. Yeah. I wrestled against him and Willie the Wolfman too, Willie Farkas, and then later I ended up wrestling Willie Farkas at singles all over Ohio. He came down and worked for the Sheik for a while, and they were good guys.
Yeah. So what was Dave? Yeah. What was Dave like away from the ring? Because a lot of people wonder what a guy that travels with a wrestling bear and trains a wrestling bear. What kind of guy is that?
Well, I'll tell you how they train bears. It's cruel. But Dave had told me this. He says, what you got to do is you got to go out and you got to shoot the mother and kill her because she'll never get you near her cubs.
Yeah.
But after you get the cubs, you train them to be nice to people because bears are basic wrestlers. When a bear attacks you in the woods, a wild bear, they use the same moves that college wrestlers use to kill you with. But they teach a bear just to be gentle around people. And by golly, I tied up with the bear. He goes behind me, knocks my legs out from under me, gets on top of me, starts riding me around the ring. But he wasn't hurting me. But I could see all the stuff I saw as a kid where Davy Crockett would kill a bear fighting it with a knife was baloney.
Yeah.
When you've been in the ring with a bear, they're so strong, so powerful that, but like I said, that's what the Sheik wanted me to do, so I did it. He said, this is something I really, really wanted.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, now, and I don't know how the timetable works out, but did you ever cross paths with Mark Lewin while he was in Detroit?
Oh, I used to be with him. I never wrestled him, but I only beat him. He was really friendly to me. I was the host of the meat business at the time, and I used to sell him prime ribs and stuff that he would buy. And he was just a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And a tremendous hand in the ring, one of the best of all time.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, if somebody asked me what I thought the dream match of all time would be, and this is just opinion, okay? Everybody's got their opinions, probably depending on what age group they come from. And I'm told this match never happened anywhere, but Mark Lewin versus Buddy Rogers, both in their prime, both wanting to have a good match, both working hard for the match, would have been, to me, the ultimate.
Yeah.
The ultimate match. But as I understand it, once again, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I've been told they never wrestled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lewin's another one of those underappreciated talents. I mean, he was on top everywhere he went, and I mean, he was great.
He drew money everywhere he went too. I didn't much like his what was the Purple Haze?
Yeah, the Purple Haze.
That was okay, but that was okay. Mm-hmm. But Mark Lewin, as a young guy in his prime, as a baby face, was absolutely the best.
Yeah,
the best I've ever seen. He was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were up there, what did the guys in the back? How was everybody's feeling about the Sheik and the fire gimmick, the throwing of fire?
Oh, I've never heard anybody complain about it. And I'll tell you, I refereed a match once, and he threw the fire like 6 inches away from me. I still couldn't see how he did it. He was the best. A lot of these guys would have all these gimmicks and these equipment and things in it. I could not see. Maybe he did the same thing the other guys did, but he was so smooth that I could not. I was on top of the match, and also the fire just came out of his hand. He was the best fire thrower I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of guys try to use the fire gimmick, but he was the best with that.
Yeah. Now,
when you can't fool the ref who's right on top, when you can fool the ref, I should say, then you know you're good.
That's right. Now I've always heard there's always been this story, and there's no footage. It's just people that said they were there. That one time that Sheik got Bruiser with the fire. Were you happen to be there? I don't know where it was.
Oh, he got bruised with the fire in Detroit.
Okay.
It wasn't any. Yeah, I saw that match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any footage on it, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So so we'll skip ahead. When you got back running in Toledo and you were running Bedlam, did you ever hear from the Sheik at that time again? Did he ever pop back up? And
well, the Sheik was trying to get my TV away from me, but he didn't do it. He went to Channel 36 and whatever. But we had the Miller Beer for a sponsor, and we were pretty tight. And I just was fortunate enough to be able to keep my spot. We had good ratings, I was told. We had people watching the show. They were coming to the matches. And I'd go out and have lunch with the station manager, a man named Dennis Cattell, who was very helpful to us. And people would come to the table asking for autographs, and he says, the ratings are one thing. He said, well, every place we go, they recognize you. That means they're watching your show.
right, yeah.
So we did good. I had Sam Botek for Miller Beer.
Mm-hmm.
Loser Bedlam would have never happened without the help of three people. I may have mentioned this on previous shows.
Yep.
Sam Botek had a Miller Beer sponsor. Dennis Cattell helped us with production, made a top-notch show for us. And John Robinson Block, who owned the Toledo Blade and Cable System, he put us on the cable channel before we got on 36, and he did big stories on us in the Blade, put me on the cover of the Sunday magazine and stuff. So without those three men, we wouldn't have had a Bruiser Bedlam.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting there. I mean, I was running the show. Bruiser let me. I mean, he liked my ideas, but Bruiser was still the boss. But he just, I was the booker, and he said it was good stuff, and we were drawing money. So he let me. He gave me a free hand, and we were doing quite well. Mm-hmm. And that's where the money was to be made in wrestling, is by promoting.
Yeah, right.
The top-notch wrestlers will get paid pretty good, but most wrestlers don't get paid much.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think it was Bobby Heenan, blessed memory, said, if you think you're going to get into wrestling and make money, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And if you get into wrestling knowing you're not going to make any money, you're still crazy. So he'd say he was crazy no matter what you do. And I probably could have done a lot better with my life if I'd have stayed in college. But I left college and went in the Army for 2 years, and I never regretted leaving college. So I probably wasn't really college material, in spite of all my college degrees. And all my
right.
being the world's most highly educated wrestler.
That's right. So when you were there, when you were back running Toledo, did you ever consider, ever reach out to maybe bringing the Sheik in at all to do an appearance, to do anything, or was that just
no? Because
you considered it was burnt bridge?
I would have done that, except the first thing the Sheik would have done was start going to the promoters and the sponsors,
right,
and this and that, and trying to steal it away from me. That was one of his methods of operation. I hate to talk ill of the dead, because I've said many good things about him on this show while we've been talking. Mm-hmm. But I was afraid. If he'd have said to me, Jerry, you got the town, if you give me so much money, I'll come in and work some shows for you, I would have considered using them.
Yep.
But I was afraid, maybe it's my own insecurities or paranoia. But remember this, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
That's true. That's right.
So I just didn't want to bring him in on that basis, because I was afraid he would try to take it back away from me, and I didn't need that.
Yeah. So when you're
other than that, I would have used them.
Yeah. So looking at Detroit, kind of in a retrospect, you were talking how it kind of died out. Money was gone. Do you think part of that was the old syndrome of Sheik keeping himself on top for so long? And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. George Cannon used to say, if you have a movie theater and you can't keep playing Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane, the two greatest pictures ever made, every week. Mm-hmm. You've got to change the pictures or people stop coming. They see the same thing. And the Sheik, I think that he hung around too long. I think that if at a point in his career he had put on a suit and tie and became Eddie Farhat promoter and started pushing the young guys, I think he could probably still be in business, because that territory was, I'm going to tell you this right now, legendary.
Right.
They had the best talent. I told you about that one super show, but they always had guys coming in. They had Bruno Sammartino was there. Yep. They had every big name in the country was in and out of Detroit. If you was a wrestling fan, Detroit was an absolute mecca. Yep. And it was a Sheik that did it all. Yep. He was a fan, but if he would have just backed off a little bit and just gave the younger guys a chance, getting back to Jim Barnett in Atlanta, it was Louis Martinez that told me. This is a credible source story. I didn't hear him say it personally, but he didn't want anybody over 40 working for him.
Right. Okay.
I mean, think about it. He had all younger guys down there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He wanted younger guys because they're the ones that can move and do things. And look, I can tell you right now, as I got older, my repertoire became smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And now I'm managing, and we're doing okay. We got a thing going now. It seems to be got some interest.
Yeah.
But I just do it. I'm not doing it for the big bucks. I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy helping out this promotion, which I do not. A lot of people think I own this promotion because I own a promotion. I do not own this promotion. I work for these guys as an employee, but they're good guys. They're good guys to work for, and I'm happy to help them out.
That's right. And for anybody listening that's Powerbomb Wrestling out of Toledo. You're easily found on Facebook. They have a website, everything. Just look them up. Easy to find. They're posting all kinds of stuff online all the time. Easy to follow. So check them out.
Our next show is, if you're in the Toledo area, our next show is at St. Clement's Hall on February the 11th.
Okay. There you go.
Sunday afternoon. The doors open at 4. Matches start at 5. Pedro the Killer Clown, my newest discovery, wrestles Bobo Brazil Jr. on the card, along with a full lineup of Sean Casey, Andy Shane. A lot of the big things that got around in the independent wrestling scene right now are going to be there. And if I was a part of the promotion, I'd be buying a ticket and seeing there myself, because this is going to be really something, I think.
Yeah, there you go. There's your chance to see the doctor himself in action. He's still out there.
Please come up to me. A lot of people are to be annoyed with me, but I'll never be afraid to come up to me and ask for an autograph if you want to talk wrestling. Just don't do it while I'm working in the ring or middle of the match. But after the match is over, I'll be happy to talk to the fans, because without the fans, we're nothing.
That's absolutely right.
We do everything we can to help the fans enjoy themselves. We want to make sure they're entertained, and we do our best. And I think these guys, we got a tag called History in the Making.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, a few months ago, had a cage match with the CIA, the Charismatic Innovative Association. It was the greatest cage match I've ever seen. You're talking about suplexes off the top of the cage into the center of the ring.
Oh.
You're talking about some of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and we didn't put it on TV. You had to be there to see it, and it was really good. We have a good roster of talent. Every match is a great match, I think.
Yeah. There you go. Check them out in Toledo. So we're gonna wrap this, Doctor. As we close it out here, do you have any closing comments on there in your early career and especially they're working for the Sheik in Detroit? Anything as you look back on that now all these years later?
Okay. I would like to thank, this is the promotional end, Marquis Angelo, he trained me too. I'd also like to thank Les Ruffin from Cincinnati, blessed memory, who introduced me to Dick the Bruiser. I'd like to thank Dick the Bruiser for helping me along too, but the Sheik, I don't want to forget him, even though we finished our hard terms. He helped me get started. I'll never forget it. And just thinking, if I'm forgetting anybody, I don't want to hurt your feelings. It's just that sometimes you don't think of everything when you're on the air.
Yeah.
But the people who helped me in the early days, because that was the theme of our show today, Bulldog Don Kent. Bulldog Don Kent helped me too. I want another one of blessed memory. Most of them are gone now, but they were fantastic people, and it was a different kind of business than it is today.
Yeah. Speaking of Don Kent, there, when you brought him up, I was going to ask. When you worked with him in up in Detroit, was he still doing the Kangaroos at that time, or?
Well, he was with the Kangaroos. Then he came back as a single.
Okay.
And then we teamed up. We were partners for years. We did really good. I thought we were a good team, but that's one team that's really not being recognized because, and I give all credit for our team being great to Don Kent, being a great tag team wrestler, because he was a captain of the team. But I think I did a good job of following orders.
Yep.
So
absolutely. There's to me, another underappreciated talent, Bulldog Don Kent.
He was as good as they get.
That's right. Didn't get enough recognition. So, all right. We appreciate you talking early in your career. We'll be back with
pleasure
another
was all
episode.
yours, sir.
That's right. Absolutely.
You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes. And now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful, long, and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase. And there you have it. Yet another episode of Graham's Gallery, brought to you by the Dave Dynasty Show. Always good to sit down with Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. and chat it up. Very interesting episode today, talking about his early days in Detroit, the early parts of his career, particularly Detroit, working for the Sheik. Good stuff, as always, from the good doctor. We will do it again in about a month. We appreciate your support. These episodes are greatly received. We love it. I love sitting down and chatting with the doctor and letting him tell his stories as only he can. So make sure you can give us feedback, get in touch with us. Anything you want to hear, topics, questions, whatever you may have, you can follow us and send us those things on Twitter. We are at Dr. Graham Jr., and that is Doctor spelled out Doctor. And you can also find us on Facebook. It is also at Dr. Graham Jr., not at Dr. Graham Jr., but just Dr. Graham Jr., Doctor. Those are the ways to get hold of us. Or you can send us an email at Dr. Graham Jr., again spelled out, at DaveDynasty.com. Those are the ways to give us feedback, send us questions. Here in the next couple weeks, we will put out what the next topic will be, what we're going to talk to you about Jerry. But thank you for joining us on this amazing episode and following this journey. We appreciate it, and we will see you next month.
Smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see? What?